Charles Bergamo here, chair, and Eunice was kind enough to send out an agenda. So if everybody's in agreement with the agenda, somebody make a motion. We'll all then say yay. Agenda.
Yay. Or a motion, either one.
All right. Anyone want to second the motion? Marina will second it. All right. All in favor? Aye. Okay. The agenda's approved. Next item is Eunice was also kind enough to put together the minutes from the last meeting. If anyone wants, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, so it's open for discussion. If anyone has any changes, amendments, or discussion is the same. If not, then the old second, and then we can approve the minutes. Does anybody need more time to look at the minutes, or are we good? Hi, Lori. How are you? Notifications. What's my notification? Someone started recording. Okay. All right. We good with the minutes? Somebody want to make a? I made a motion to approve it. Somebody just needs to second it. We're all being very shy.
Well, I wasn't there. I would second it, but I wasn't there.
Anyone? Second.
Marina. I think she's the only one that was there that's here.
You're on mute.
Mute there. I move.
All right. All in favor?
I move to accept them.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So the only thing I have to report is you're probably all aware, or if you're not, there's the Connecticut State Legislature is considering a bill 5001, which is going to change, potentially change the definition of who receives services in the state of Connecticut, to remove the intellectual disability part and to move towards a developmental disability definition, which is more in line with the Developmental Disability Act. And there are a number of states that do not use IQ as the sort of gatekeeper, for lack of a better term, for purposes of services. And it's not, I mean, I don't think they're going to just pass a bill. They have to do studies and expand. What's the cost factor? How's this going to open up? And also that the autism waivers, I understand it, not that it's going to move to the Office of Management and Budget, or OMP or OMB, forget which the terminology is, but they're going to study how services are being delivered and then make recommendations in terms of how services should be delivered. So DSS or DDS may ultimately inherit all that, but there's going to be studies done along those lines. So that's basically the big news, or when I say big, obviously it's a statutory change, and IQ will no longer be the sole, potentially, because nothing's changed yet. But they're looking to change that to the developmental disability definition, and other states already use it, as opposed to the IQ being the gatekeeper. That's my big report. Sue, you have a question?
Segueing off that, House Bill 5765 will allow parents who are caregivers to be paid.
Well, that's good news because parents, well, parents who are caregivers of children over the
Even
age.
if and they don't have to give up their guardianship.
Okay,
It
yes, because
will
parents
change
can,
that.
yeah, parents can get paid, right? As long as you give up guardianship. Although there's the secret prior approval committee that Shannon knows about, where as a guardian you can apply to the prior approval committee, um, and get approved as a legal guardian and a parent and get paid, to watch, under the Medicaid waivers. And Sue, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume that bill deals with uh, children over the age children people children over the age of 18, because there is a code of federal
Yeah,
regulation
yeah.
that
And also this bill has been approved by Human Services and it's been referred to appropriations.
excellent, because I know I was sort of championing that with the Connecticut Developmental Disability Council, and I spoke to Krista I'm probably going to butcher her last name, Ostrowitz at DSS. And I don't think and they're not looking to not do it, by the way. They were just looking to, I think, wait for the groundswell. And apparently, whoever was sponsoring that bill, I have kudos to them for getting that done, or hopefully getting it done and having it pass, so that we don't have to go through I think it's a charade of, a parent's a legal guardian, they give up legal guardianship, then they get paid. I mean, I never quite understood that reasoning, but and also, you can get paid as the legal guardian if the child is under age 18. There's a little loophole in the statutes that probably would only apply to somebody in a medically complex case, where if the parent is a registered nurse and you have a medically complex child and you need somebody with medical skills, it seems that when I was talking to Krista and looking at all the different regs and statutes, that even though the Code of Federal Regulation says we don't pay parents to do what they're legally responsible to do, take care of their children under the age of 18, there is this tiny little loophole in there for that particular situation. So, well, that's good news. So House Bill 5765, Sue?
That's correct.
Okay. Marina, you're up.
Hey, so back to 5001, I guess beyond the item, it's got a whole bunch of stuff in it that is exciting. And it was, as many know, introduced by the Speaker of the House, Ritter. So it's got a lot of, powerful support behind it. It has other really good things in it, including, some employment services, some good things for providers, including some career path components. It has potentially a chunk of money for the residential waiting list. So it has a lot, kind of more stuff for the IDD community than we've seen in a long
Also,
time.
it also has transportation.
Right. Transportation. So there's a lot of really good and interesting stuff. It also passed through the Human Services Committee and is headed on its way toward, and I think unanimously. So and it's headed on its way to appropriations as well. So it's another thing that's worth watching for, and being ready to submit testimony when that day comes. So another good one to watch.
Well, thank you. Anyone else on any of the legislation that's pending up there in Hartford? I was about to say Albany. Good Lord. Because I'm on my way to New York tomorrow, but it's like, what am I doing? This is Hartford. We're in Connecticut. All right. So any comments on that? Anything of that nature? By the way, just from a perspective of participation on this council, Roger was one of our members, and we have not been able to, or he hasn't gotten. We tried to reach out to him. We've been trying to get a hold of him, but he hasn't gotten back to us. And we do need to have somebody on the council who is, and Fritz had gotten a hold of Roger, and he participated and came down to a couple of meetings. He was up in Litchfield County. We need to find somebody who's getting services, a self-advocate basically, to sit on the committee to kind of begin to round out the committee. The other thing I would ask everybody is this may shock you, but we're all getting older. No, Mickey's shaking his head no. Eventually we have to replace ourselves too. The Connecticut Council of Developmental Disabilities, they have they're statutorily required to turn over. But look for a replacement for yourself or to add on to the committee at some point. I've enjoyed my time here, etc. So you can kind of tell I'm giving you sort of a little bit notice. But eventually this might be my last year serving on the council. But before I leave, I'm going to try and find a replacement for myself. 'Cause I think it's important to always have like fresh blood, new people come in. And remember, you can always participate, right? We have the gobs of the public always on our meetings calls, right? Because you can always call in or listen to the meetings as a member of the public. The only thing you can't do is vote. And as I tell people, no money, no power. Right? We don't
Right,
allocate money.
voting on the minutes. Voting on the minutes is about the most voting we do, so.
Yeah, right. And it's like we don't allocate money. We don't give out grants. We can't stop Shannon from doing whatever she wants. She could decorate her office any way she wants, and we can't stop her. All that. So, but I would encourage you to find, if you have people who want to be active. And now that it's Zoom mostly, or Microsoft Teams, I should say. Sorry, oops. Since it's Microsoft Teams, I think we can get people from the whole geography, right? Remember, there was the issue about I can't make Waterbury, I can't come here, I can't go there, middle of the day, back, forth, et cetera, et cetera. So Shannon, maybe you know some people who would make a good fit and nominate them.
I was going to ask a couple questions about that. In terms of an individual who's receiving or involved with DDS, I can certainly get the word out to see if we can find someone that would be interested in participating. If you'd like me to do so, you had mentioned Fritz kind of honchoed that before.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great.
All right, I can do that. And then as far as other membership, I can certainly, ask around.
Yeah.
The Family Support Network might have a family member that's involved. I could speak to the executive director there if she has anybody, because she's involved in a lot of the work groups, to see if there's some folks that may be interested.
Yeah. I think it's important that we eventually, we're not going to be here forever, right? So to that extent, finding replacements, I think, is important. And just getting new blood that's how I got here. I think, Mickey, I spoke with you
Right.
way back when. I also recognize from my own perspective, not that my daughter's leaving the state or I'm leaving the state, but I do know that at some point it's kind of like, okay, I got to start to balance things. And I can always participate by just being the public. I can always be part of the meeting by just kind of calling in when they're scheduling your meetings and just kind of listening. And if there's questions, I have questions.
But if you're not part of the council, do you still get the, notification of a meeting?
It's on the public website.
Well, you have to check the public website. Not everybody knows to.
Well, I
Right.
agree. But if you're a member of the council and leaving the council, you know that it's public. Public notice is there. You're not going to get an email from Eunice, admittedly, right? That says, "Oh, we're having a meeting tonight," but the meetings are out there on the public, just like the state council meetings, right? Just like the Developmental Disability Council meetings, all the meetings. If you're interested and if you want to stay involved, you can. You can just simply, book, and and I assume if you're going to participate, it's going to be for a specific reason, in which case you may just want to attend one meeting and ask the question. I tell people I work with special needs planning about the regional advisory councils, and I tell them that if you have a question as a parent, go to the council meeting and you'll have the regional director sitting there. You can ask them. Right? Shannon, it's not like Shannon's is going to not talk to them or something, right? I mean, it's like I tell them, if you have a question, just go to the regional council meeting. There's a public participation. You can ask your question. And I know we've never had like vast attendance at these meetings in public. But when we did, they asked their questions, Fritz responded or got back to them, right? May not have had the answer right then and there, but it was something he could look into and address later. So just be aware of that. With all the councils, you can participate just on the website. Anyway, I've said that's the big chairs report.
Okay.
And then on to the director, Shannon.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I wanted to give an update on the Connecticut State Department of Ed grant. There was letters that went out from our central office to everybody on the helpline, whether they had a case manager. Oh, I'm getting background. I don't know why. Are you hearing an echo? No?
A little bit.
A little bit.
I don't know what that's from. That went out to families, anybody who is in our system. So our helpline is being overwhelmed now with requests, which is great. The grant could be used for therapies not covered by insurance, music, horseback riding, tutoring, educational enrichment, summer programs, camp, extended school year. So I'm hoping that the word is out, and I mean, like, I know our helpline is overwhelmed with requests. So again, that's a great thing. Just trying to manage all that. I don't know if you've heard anything on your end from any of our families.
I can tell you, I did get an email from the case manager. I think it was the case manager on the grant. My daughter's finishing her last year.
Okay.
And it was a pretty seamless process.
Okay.
So we got her past the lake compounds for
Okay.
her and her
Great.
for her to go. And it's been approved. I got the paperwork done. It was very simple.
Okay, great. So just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. And if you're talking to families, they should definitely take advantage if there's a need. I wanted to bring up where we are with our vacancies. We're making headway. I think when I first took the position on, we were slammed with retirements. So we're finally able to see the end. I think right now I just have 6 case manager vacancies compared to the 12 that we had at one point in time. So that has given us the opportunity to move people off the helpline where we were kind of being stalled, and that was potentially holding up day programs for folks that were graduating. So we're making great strides there. So I'm happy about that. We're going to be hiring a director of quality for each region, which is a position we had years and years ago, and they did away with it. So it's going to be a position that is overseeing work with providers. It's going to be overseeing incident reports, abuse and neglect, our PRAP process, almost like a corporate compliance type of position to make sure that we're doing, everything we're supposed to be doing, following policies. We've been responding to a lot of requests from the Office of the Inspector General around abuse and neglect reports and incident reports. We kind of were operating in silos. So hopefully with this position coming on board, we'll have one central person overseeing all those areas. So that's going to be a good thing. Even with working with providers now, we're operating in silos and not pulling all that data together when we're seeing a problem. We have to go to different areas within the region to pull information together when we're trying to address issues with providers. So I'm hoping that that will definitely have some positive outcome. The other big project in the department you've probably all heard about and I've spoke about before is our transformation project with ARPA funds. There's money available to providers looking to move people on to less restrictive settings. We have a few providers in our region that have submitted proposals that we're working with. So that will give opportunities to other folks on the, emergency list, wait list, elderly caregiver initiative that were people that were given funding that weren't able to secure placements because there isn't any. So that's a good thing. Peter Mason, our former deputy commissioner out of central office, is overseeing this project. The other update I wanted to give you was, and Mickey's probably a little bit familiar with this due to his involvement with the training school and the parties that are overseeing how we're placing people out of the training school. We're in a project now where we purchased a house so families could see the house versus, this, we're going to build the house. There was never anything for them to see. So we purchased a beautiful house in Watertown that's going to be a 6-bed home. We had some trouble with the neighbors. There were some zoning meetings that actually I attended, concerns about a group home being in their neighborhood. But it was more about not our folks. They were worried that we could eventually turn the group home over to maybe to become a halfway house or a house dealing with individuals that are in rehab. That was really their biggest fear. They seemed to be interested in what we were doing and we were welcomed, but there were fears down the road if we ever opted to sell the house or move out of the house. So it was interesting to hear what their worries were. So
Were you able to overcome that? I guess you were.
Pardon?
And apparently you were able to overcome that.
Well, I will say the town manager and the zoning and the town attorney were wonderful. They talked about the town attorney actually lives in the town and was familiar with a group home in his area, so he spoke positively about that. I felt it was a great meeting from the town's perspective. They were very welcoming. So I was happy with the outcome because you always fear, how those meetings can become very challenging to navigate, but it was great. We're also dealing with, as you know, and I'm sure you've heard, just in terms of our day programs, the continued staffing issues that Karen has always talked about, as well as in our residential settings. We seem to have some providers that are doing okay with it, but the majority keep talking about it. And if you listen to the testimony, you did probably hear from providers their struggle around, wages and a career path, which was mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. So that's still a battle. And we're getting calls, and is Karen on the call? Because I know she always asks about staffing and what we're doing about it. I don't think so. A lot of calls from families looking for day programs, so that's been difficult. I received a few calls, Charles, after your last meeting from families regarding getting paid. So we kind of talked that through in those particular cases, because the individuals were already receiving supports from an agency, and an agency, it wasn't something that we could figure out to do because the person was being supported 100% by a private agency unless they were interested in having their family member come, to either live in their home or in another setting minus the provider. And then there was another situation that actually I'm still trying to work out. It was about an individual being very medically compromised. And in terms of when he graduates from his LEA, how to manage those services for him. So I'm working on that right now. I think that's just about it. We're struggling. The other struggle is nursing in our respite center, particularly down in Lower Fairfield. We can't recruit nursing. So it's become a challenge within the region in terms of providing that support for someone that has medical needs, and how to figure that out. In some cases, unfortunately, we had to cancel because we could not get the nursing services in that we needed. Right now, looking at pool nursing companies to help us out, working with central office, business office on that. So that's
you know,
kind of the updates.
I was on a webinar the other day that dealt with paying parents once again, but this was in, I guess there's a program, Colorado started it, and this dealt more with the medically compromised population. And as they were discussing it, there's Medicaid waivers or funding. They set up a particular program and they actually train the parents to provide the care. Obviously, it's not going to work in all situations. Depends on the level of care that's needed. But it seems to be fairly well received in a number of states, sort of in the Midwest and out west, where the parents get trained, they get paid, and they watch the, you know, they're taking care of the child because of the issue you just mentioned, right? They can't find, you know, RNs or whatever the level of nursing is, and not on a regular sustained basis. So they train the parent to do it where that's possible. And those programs seems to be working. It gets then they started talking about Medicaid and reimbursement. That gets so complex with Medicaid and what the rules are and which waiver you're on and how it gets paid and whether it's this funding or that funding or this care or that care. And it's like, yeah. So, but I wonder if you're familiar with that program.
No, I'm not.
All right, I'll send you the link because it's there. I mean, you know, webinars don't die, apparently, right? They're on the web forever. And I'll send you the link that I received, and you can check it out and see if that. I don't know if Connecticut is looking at something like that. It has you know, all these things have acronyms associated with them. I just forget the acronym as I'm sitting here. But it was it. But I listened to it. It was very interesting the way they were approaching it. But it was the medically complex. Not just simply I have a child who doesn't have medical needs, but I'm watching them at home and I want to get paid. That's a little different compared to the medically complex cases. And that's what this dealt with, medical care.
We're seeing a lot more, or I am lately, of people really medically fragile, ventilators, deep suctioning, you know, J tubes, not just a G tube, a J tube, really, you know, requiring percussion. That's very, very optimized, which is presenting some challenges.
Well, the population ages and of it too.
I think it's, yes, I was going to say population ages, and then we have technology that's also, you know, from a young child, keeping them alive and moving them forward, and they have such a high medical need attached to them as well. So we're seeing that all different spectrums, but certainly, like you said, Mickey, too, getting older.
Well,
Plays a piece
it
in that
is,
too.
you know, and it's a real concern in the general world of caregiving, whether it's for elderly or people with disabilities or childcare. And, you know, I've given my immigration speech a few times at different venues, and I think the only way out of this problem for America is to really ramp up work visas and allow people to come in who are willing to come in and work and do those kind of jobs, because that was traditionally an opportunity for people from the islands, from South America, Mexico. And I just, you know, for us not to do that and think in terms of the war babies that are going to be aging and putting that pressure on the systems, I don't see any way out of it except immigration. And I know, you know, we're involved with the Department of Developmental Disabilities, but we're competing with all those other areas. I have a daughter-in-law who's very active and executive director in an organization training childcare providers, and it's the same issue. childcare is expensive if you can get it, and it's hard to get people licensed, and it's just a general problem in the country, and in particular in a high-cost state like Connecticut. It's going to be exacerbated. So I always mention, try to get people to think in terms of immigration is not a bad thing if they do think that way, but as a good thing and as a way long-term. It's not going to solve tomorrow's problem, but it could solve the problem over the next couple of decades. So that's my little immigration speech. But I think we, as people who are struggling to find people to work with our population, need to be advocates for some solution. And I think that's along the lines of one of the better ones. End of speech.
Shannon, it was by the Lucille Packard Foundation on
Okay.
Children's Health. And I'm going to send Eunice the link, and she can share it with the board or the council. And the event was paid family caregiving for children with medical complexity and disabilities.
Okay,
And
great.
and there'll be a link, and hopefully you'll see you'll be able to see the webinar.
And just one other thing, the elderly, we're not using the word elderly caregiver anymore. We're using aged caregiver for those initiatives. There were some complaints about the term of elderly. So it's now the aged caregiver initiative. So it dropped initially, I think it started out at 72. We're down to 68 years old and over now. So we're addressing those situations. Case managers are submitting Pratt requests, or we're looking at our prior Pratt requests. So we've been busy on that.
I would like to vote to replace the word aged with well done. I would the well done caregiver. Thank you very much.
Well done. I don't know. How about we skip it all together and just say caregiver 68 and over? Just get rid of the word altogether.
Yeah, if you have an age you're defining it by, you don't need any adjective.
Right. Right. Well done. I don't know.
The number speaks for itself.
It's like I had a knee replacement 25 years ago, and so now we're talking about what in medicine they call a revision. They don't call it a replacement again because you can only replace a joint once, apparently, right? So I said to the doctor, I said, I don't like the word revision. I want to think of it as an upgrade. Can we call it an upgrade? I'm upgrading my phone.
If you got a trade in for your old hardware,
That's right. Maybe I'll get a credit or something, right? All right. So that concludes our director's report. Now I'm looking at the agenda. New business. Anyone have any new business that they'd like to bring forward to this meeting? Hearing none, we shall move on to old business. Maybe there was something from 20 meetings ago or something that we want to revisit, or last meeting, or I see Marina's looking back in time.
Pondering.
Yeah, pondering old business, anything. No.
I actually have a question for Shannon in regards with some of the day programs. Are you aware of any DSO type programs that also have therapy, not just consult, but any hands-on if it's appropriate? Obviously, whether it be in a group or.
Do you mean, so if someone's in a day program, there's a physical therapist on site? Is that
Right. So that they might have or be able to put like a small group together, something like that.
I am not aware of any currently.
Okay. So I know we hear that a lot, like with some of, the kids coming out, aging out from school, graduating out, and they're still, looking, and it's hard for them to understand that crossover. And some programs will have consult, for whether equipment or even be able to come in to give some, a look over and talk with the families if there's a concern. But We're frequently asked that, is there any program that you know that consistently has it? I think the only one I'm aware of, goodness, I think it's up in Woodbridge. It's a very small program. Just drew a blank on the name, sorry. But I think they bring in a PT, and I think the families might pay a piece into that. So it's kind of a fun group activity, but working on skills as well.
Well, I know in the case of my daughter Jenna, she has seen PT people at STAR for the day program. She uses a wheelchair, so she's now reactivated in a stander that STAR arranged to get through the equipment Medicaid support, and so they put her in this stander for 25-30 minutes a day. That's physical therapy.
That's great. Yeah.
So they have brought in people.
Did they bring them in, or are they on staff, Mickey, or are they VNA?
They're not
folks?
permanent staff. They're associated with the agency. They do work with other participants. You might check with Katie exactly how.
Yeah, I can ask her. Yeah, because I'm not.
And I'm not sure, but they more so lately than in the past. I'm seeing more activity on that, and that may be because in December Jenna moved into a group home, and I think the group home has really ramped up a lot of the medical type attention for Jenna, better than we did. We were managing her. So everybody seems to what's going on. Everybody seems to be working a little more proactively on that.
What about programs like St. Catherine's? I don't know for sure, but I almost would bet they do.
I can ask our resource management staff if they're aware. I'm not familiar.
Good, that'd be great, just to get a sense to at least let the families know. I mean, I worked with St. Vincent Special Needs for many years. I mean, they have on consult.
Yeah,
they have a motion come in for the chairs. You know, they do have PT, speech, OT. They can go there. They can do some things, but I think, you know, again, I think the families were kind of looking more of something more, you know, steady. And I do know some adults can get service in the home, especially if they're not in their program for whatever the reason, under a doctor's order to do that, right?
I know
but that's
for a
great
while,
to know STAR can. That's good.
Some of the things Jenna was getting had for a little while, 3 months ago, when it was ramping in, the consultants were coming in, there was some co-pays involved. So actually we paid for some of it on a copay, depending on who the agency is and what they accepted. If they didn't accept Medicaid, but she's on Medicare, I don't know, it was $75. And fortunately we can afford to pay that kind of thing. And there were 4 or 5 sessions that we paid the copay. And then they were able also to train the staff at STAR to implement some of the issues that they wanted done. So it's all good. I mean,
yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
You know, Shannon, I'm curious, sort of on the theme of physical therapy, but non-physical therapy, recreational services. You know, I obviously we're primarily concerned with making sure the person's safe, that they have care at home, live, etc. Almost everybody else in the world goes to a gym or does something recreationally, right? Are recreational services, can that be part of someone's budget? You know, like for example, I want to go, you know, I have a pay a trainer at a gym to help me, you know, work out and, you know, whatever the case may be. Not obviously physical therapy, because that's either going to be covered by Medicaid, Medicare, or privately, you know, where it's very medically focused, but more, you know, the person wants to go to the gym, or the swimming club, or go bowling, or, you know, recreational activity. Is that something that
we have approved when it's come through Pratt, gym memberships. We have done special swim lessons. It always, usually it ties back to a need, whether it be someone, weight management, good health. We've paid for driver's lessons. We've, a variety of different things.
Okay.
Also on our self-determination budgets for the private hire budgets, there is there's two funding lines. One for $400 for recreational types of activities to support the staff when they take the person out. And there's also a $250, they call it a recess budget, which can be used for special things like that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Any questions for Shannon or anyone on the council or anything they want to bring up at all? Prediction on the weather. Will there be snow?
Hey Harry, how you doing?
I'm just gonna go to the edge for like 20 minutes.
And Gil, was that you?
Oh shit.
Oh.
No, it wasn't me, but
Recorded
I'm here.
forever.
Oh, sugar.
We only heard you a little bit.
All right. Is there anyone from the public on that would like to ask a question or participate?
Hear me, I'm on mute.
I'm just gonna go to the edge.
Other than Gil. All right. Well, if no one else has any business or wants to raise anything or discuss anything or have something for our next meeting, they want to tee up for next meeting, we're at the point where we can adjourn.
Okay.
All right. Hearing nothing, I guess I will make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Good seeing everybody.
All right. All right. Everyone have a great
Aye.
day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
How many? That's ridiculous.